From US to Kiama, what?
Where I started the PCA Neema Church in Boston. I ministered that congregation for 18 and a half years. And then in January this year, God called me to go back to Kenya.
What are some of the challenges or the good things that you've learned relocating back home?
There are some people who are still suspicious that I must be after something in the PCA. No.
What did you do to prepare yourself to retire back home?
I was not planning to ever retire in the United States. Some think that I can help them to come to the US.
Yes, mambo vipi ladies and gentlemen, welcome to Mkenya Marekani. This is a platform where we educate you. We talk about life here in America, and most specifically we interact with Kenyans, immigrants, Africans here in the US, those who are doing well, those who are doing extraordinarily well in the community, as well as those who are into business. And today is no difference because we have a reverend here, a doctor in the Presbyterian Church. He retired back in Kenya. Most people say it's not possible. Tunakuja kutafuta pesa na ijai. Atakuwa anatueleza one two about his journey coming to America. He stayed here for a long time and finally he is now relocated back home in Kenya. So karibu sana mchungaji. Welcome so much to our show.
Thank you.
Yeah, probably we'll start with your name. I'll hold the mic with your name and then we can move from there.
My name is Karemi Mumboi and I'm a PCA minister. I came to the United States for my studies. To do my master's, I came to Kansas City in Kansas, and I was at Central Baptist Theological Seminary for 2 years. And then after that, I went to Oral Roberts University for my doctoral studies. When I was in Kansas, me and my colleague, Reverend Dr. Nzioka, we started the Neema Community Church in Kansas. And then after some time, and I was flexible in my studies when I was doing my doctoral studies, I was able to leave Kansas and move to Boston, where I started the PCA Neema Church in Boston. I ministered that congregation for 18 and a half years. And then in January this year, God called me to go back to Kenya. And I was feeling that before I retire, I need to give about 5 years to PCA Church and then reconnect with the church and the people there and build a social connection so that when I retire, I can have some friends. So what I did is that 5 years before I left, I brought an associate minister in Boston, and then I stayed with him for 5 years. And then eventually I handed over the church to him and moved back to Kenya, where I submitted myself for posting at the PCA Church, and I was posted to Kiamadare Presbytery, and I'm now in charge of Kamuchege Parish. And I thank God for the transition. It's not been easy, but I was ready for it. I was ready for it. And now I'm there, serving the church in Kenya.
Wow! From US to Kiama, what?
Kiamadare.
Yeah, Kiamadare.
Yes.
Wow. That calls for, like, I don't know, a heart to do so.
Yes. And I was prepared for that. And I knew when I go back, I can be posted anywhere. And I was ready for that, as long as there are some people that are needing my services. And I must say that I've now adjusted quite well. To some people, it was not easy. The people in Boston refused to release me. Some people in Kenya were resisting my coming back because they did not understand. Like you're asking, very few people understood why I'm going back to Kenya. There are some people who are still suspicious that I must be after something in the PCA. Yeah. No, I'm just about to retire. So I have to prepare myself for retirement. And I was not planning to ever retire in the United States. Wow. Yes.
So many people always say that they don't want to retire in the US. And that's probably every Kenyan says they will never retire in America. What did you do to prepare yourself to retire back home?
Okay, there are some things I did in terms of preparing myself for the transition or relocation back to Kenya. I made sure I have my own home. And I also made sure that at least I had a personal car that was already there, so that when I go back there, I will not go to rent or to move from one parish house to the other, or even to start fundraising for a car. So I made sure that I'm ready with all that, and now I knew I was going back to work. Then go when you're there, you study the environment and then do another side hustle, and that is what I'm doing right now. Yes.
Wow, that's amazing. How was life in America for you for the more than 20 years you were here?
The one thing that I must say is that personally, I did not come to the US to work the way people say that I want to work, I want to do this and this and this. Mine was a call. And when I came to the United States and I completed my studies, I felt God calling me to establish a community of faith, bringing together Kenyans into a worshiping community. So I dedicated my life to the bringing together of those communities and starting churches. I actually, by the time I left Boston, we had three churches that were under me, but I already had divided them into two and had two ministers, each in charge of each part of it. And I've been instrumental in the starting of other churches. Like we had started a church in Dallas, Texas. We had one here in Seattle, but the COVID, it was just before COVID, and when COVID hit, it did not take off. We had one in New Jersey, and quite a number. In Boston, there are quite a number. And I thank God, because I can look back and say that the work that God sent me to do in the United States, I did. I established churches. I brought Kenyans together into worshiping communities. And I also assisted in terms of advice quite a number of other PCA ministers to establish churches.
Wow. I've never been to Boston, but I've always heard of musicians when they go to Boston. Your church was one of the biggest churches. I heard it had over 700 people. Over.
By the time I left, just before COVID, because people were coming to church in good numbers, just before COVID hit, we were closing in on 1,000 members. Yes. Yes. And it was funny because it is during the COVID era that we completed our mortgage. When people are saying that the churches have been affected financially, it is during that time that we completed our mortgage. So I left a church that is mortgage-free, and the members can worship free without thinking about paying mortgage. And when I come back right now, because I'm on leave from Kenya, and when I come and visit them, I just tell them, I'm glad that you're still worshiping, and I'm happy, and I pray for you. And I did not want a church that I would call Karemis. That's why I had to move so that it can continue being God's church. And then the other thing that I have realized is that there are some people who sometimes come to church because of the pastor. And I knew there were some people who were coming to church because of me, which is wrong, because I don't want to go to heaven and God asks me, I gave you a church and you made it your church. I want people to come to church because of Christ, not because of Karemi, because it's God's church. So by moving aside, now those people can come to worship, not because of Karemi, but because of God. Yes.
My friend, very profound, very profound. It's very hard for somebody to start their own baby. Yes. And when it grows and grows, because everybody looks at, when they start a church, they see a mega church. Mm-hmm. But when it got to that point, it was your time for going away now.
And actually, the other thing that I know in terms of leadership dynamics and institutional dynamics, the time to leave an institution is not when the institution is going down, or when people are already tired with you and are wondering who will roll away this stone. But it is good to leave when the institution is at its peak, so that those people, the moment you come back, they will welcome you and they will rejoice in your coming back. But when you wait until it's going downhill and they are wondering when you leave, then you will not feel comfortable coming back to the same church. You have left with a bad name. But now I left with my shoulders high, and when I come on Sunday, they say, our minister. Yeah. And I love that.
Wow. A good musician.
And then you also create opportunities for others. Yes. You don't become selfish. Create opportunities for others. to come to Kenya, to the US from Kenya, and also feel that they are in charge of congregations. We don't need to reinvent the wheel, that the people have to go through the same struggles I went through. We can have ministers who come and take over a congregation that is already established and continue the work of ministry. And then after some time, they leave it to somebody else. Yes.
Wow. A good musician always knows a good time to exit the stage. Yes. And that's a lesson for African leaders, African church leaders as well. This is a very good interview for all of us. Now, coming back to Kenya now, what are some of the challenges or the good things that you've learned relocating back home?
I may not talk so much about challenges, but the challenges are there because now, unlike here, when you're ministering to people who are making money and have jobs, now you go to a parish where sometimes you have to use your own money to assist some of the members who are in problems. When some people come and cry to you that my child has been thrown out of school because of the lack of fees, when I'm able and I can afford, I don't have to wait for people to come and assist that person if I can. So those are some of the challenges. And then also, it also seems like there is a lot of expectation from the members, from I. And there are still some people who believe that if they come to me and I pray for them, they will get their way to the US. And some think that I can help them to come to the US, which is not as easy. And you know, it's not very easy. But I just pray for them. So there are those challenges, but there is also the joy of ministry. Again, you know, US being a 24-hour economy, for the pastors, you work round the clock because at every second of the 24 hours, there is a member who is awake at work or at home. Mm-hmm. So in Kenya, you really get phone calls after 5 p.m., except from friends and colleagues. But here, you will receive calls even at 3 a.m. And especially because of the time difference between here and Kenya, most of the people that are here receive sometimes bad news from Kenya at night. And, you know, the moment they start, you know, wondering what next, the first point of contact is the pastor. In Kenya, the first point of contact could be the elder before it gets to the pastor. So here, the pastor is not just a pastor. You are literally your member's brother or sister. And you have to keep yourself open in such a manner that you can let them approach you anytime. It is a stressful environment. So the change into the ministry in Kenya is a little bit good for me because I'm a little bit relaxed. But that does not mean that it's that easy because the challenges in Kenya are different. However, you also enjoy an improved social life in Kenya. Here, for you to call someone, you have coffee, you have to look at your the calendar, and then it goes for 3 weeks before you can get a common moment. In Kenya, sometimes I get bored and I'm driving home and I just feel I don't want to go home right now. Jerry, where are you? Yeah. Can we have coffee? Oh yeah, give me 20 minutes. Can we have dinner together? Give me 20 minutes, I'll be there. Yeah. Yes, the social life in Kenya is very good. Yeah. People are in a relaxed environment. Here, people don't rest.
We have to wait for occasions like today when we were launching this church. Some people didn't come to launch the church. They come to see people.
Yes. And some people who were members of this church and who ought to have been here did not come because they were at work. In Kenya, you call people together any time of the week, they will be there. Yeah. On Sunday, you don't talk about somebody being tied up at work. Everybody is there on Sunday.
No, Sunday is Sabbath. It's free.
They are free and they will be there the whole day. The whole day. So it's a changed environment, but I'm enjoying it. Wow. And the thing is, for that kind of a transition, you have to be holistically prepared. I was prepared psychologically, physically, spiritually, and socially. And I was ready for it. Yes.
Thank you so much for stopping by Mkenya Marekani. Any last thoughts you want to say to our viewers?
Well, I have heard so many people say that I'm moving back to Kenya, and there are even people who have told me, maybe next year, I tell everybody, you need to have a plan, and a very strategic plan. If you're talking about next year, have a specific timing. Because some people are saying, I'm moving next year, and next year never comes. You have to organize yourself, you have to prepare yourself physically, spiritually, and psychologically, and have a plan that it is on this date. So, organize yourself. And again, believe in God. And when you pray, tell God, I am planning to relocate back to Kenya on this and this day. And then ask God to help you transition gradually. And when the time comes, don't look back. Because when you change the date, we wonder whether it is you or God who has told you to change. Yes. Wow. But if God is in the planning, then he'll guide you. Yes.
Ladies and gentlemen, Dr. Karemi here, Reverend in Presbyterian Church. What a show. What profoundness, depth. It's a show to watch, especially for the leaders and us, because we are the leaders of today and tomorrow as well. God bless you, sir, for stopping by. When you travel back home, pass our greetings.
And something else. God also put me the burden and the passion to try to tap that which we can get from the retired ministers. So I planned that when I go back to Kenya, I will start a program of visiting the retired ministers, the one that I call Legends. It is fully sponsored by me. I just go with the camera crew, we record the retired ministers, I tap into their wisdom and experiences, and then send copies to the YouTube and to CAC TV so that they can air those programs. It's an expensive undertaking, but I thank God that he has continued to supply. If I get sponsors, anybody willing to sponsor, that would be good. But log into the YouTube channel, Karemi Mumbui, you see the program, The Legends. I've interviewed now probably about 30 ministers. About 30 ministers. The retired ministers are about 100. I am going slowly. So we have at least one minister being aired live or on YouTube every week. And we thank God. It's a ministry in itself. Yeah, and it is, I just feel good. My interaction with these retired ministers and I interview them and listen to their experiences, it builds me. And I long to be like them.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
So it's a good job.
Wow.
Yes.
I've watched a couple of them. I watched when you were recording at St. Andrews. That was my home church. And I was blessed by those interviews.
Yes, okay. Yes. Yeah, his was the first one. Not because he has retired, but because he has done a lot of research and writing about retirement. So I wanted to know how he came up with that kind of an idea and what one needs to do to prepare themselves for retirement before I went on to the retired ministers. Yes.
Wow. Thank you so much. Yeah. I appreciate your time.
Thank you for your time and for interviewing me, and God bless you.
Asante sana. God bless you. Subscribe to our YouTube channel and make sure you also subscribe to his YouTube. We're going to put the link down here so that you can also support his ministry. He does a very good job. I've watched some of those videos and we have to support one another. So cheers. God bless you.